Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Ghost Recon Breakpoint on 2020, which means that the game was updated quite a bit since the time it was first released. First of all, thanks to Ubisoft for providing a copy of the game. The most important update, at least from my point of view, was the Vulkan implementation. This game used to be DirectX 11 only, now you can choose between DX11 and Vulkan before launching the game. Usually on some of the older cards, Vulkan runs worse, but in this case, on the NVidia cards before the 16 series or the 20 series, I saw the same numbers on Vulkan and DX11, maybe a couple extra frames on Vulkan. Then on the 16 series cards or the 20 series cards, I saw a performance boost using Vulkan. And on the AMD cards, I saw another boost in performance using Vulkan, so I see no reason not to use Vulkan over DX11, and there's less CPU usage. So yeah, great Vulkan implementation, at least in my opinion. I wish they did the same on the Assassin's Creed games. Those are really CPU intensive and there's tons of stutter. So I think this will be a good difference, especially on Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey. But anyways, the game runs very similar to before, but now it's more stable due to the Vulkan implementation once again. I used slightly higher settings than on my previous video when the game was just released. They also changed the options menu. Some things are in different places, some others changed names. But first of all, the texture quality, now you have to use one preset below the previous video. So for 4GB cards, I recommend using medium. If you have more than 4GB, use high or very high. And if you have less than 4GB, consider using the lowest settings on textures. Then there's also another good option called temporal injection, which is similar to the temporal filtering we used to have in Rainbow Six Siege or the temporal filtering in Watch Dogs 2. It uses a lower resolution, but it upscales to the native resolution you selected. Some sort of checkerboard rendering, like they usually use on PS4 Pro or Xbox One X on very demanding games, to upscale to a higher resolution. It's not perfect, but it looks good enough for the performance boost that you get. You get like a 10 FPS boost in some cases. So I think it's worth using despite the softness in the image, but it requires you to have anti-aliasing enabled, which seems to be some sort of TAA. So yeah, if you disable temporal injection, expect a big performance hit. Then the rest of the options, I recommend lowering them using presets. Since all the options affect performance in some way or another, it depends on where you are. But if you want to do some more tweaking by yourself, select a preset and then lower shadows, ambient occlusion, reflections, terrain and grass, if you didn't want to lower everything together. But yeah, overall, very good Vulkan implementation. This is how the game should have been on day one. Hopefully they update the previous games to use a Vulkan as well. They did with Rainbow Six Siege, but I want to see this on the Assassin's Creed franchise as well. On the CPU side of things, if you have a quad-core CPU, you should be able to maintain 60 frames per second with some uneven frame times, so there will be some stutter using the Vulkan API. Then if you have an i5-9400F, a Ryzen 5 2600, something like that, expect to have no issues whatsoever targeting 60 frames per second, as long as your GPU can handle it. So yeah, very similar numbers to what you see here. But yeah guys, that's about it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
won't last long.
More of these guys.